The biggest names in sports are all on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
That was Y'all Must Have Forgot by our next guest. And let me tell you something, folks. I've interviewed a lot of famous people, a lot of great people in the world of sports throughout my time in Israel Sports Radio. The New York Knicks, Amari Stoudemire, Mr. Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, media personalities, movie stars, on and on. But this next guest is right on the top of the list. I don't even know where to begin with all the accolades, but let's start right now. The former middleweight champion of the world, former super middleweight, former light heavyweight, former super light heavyweight, and former heavyweight champion of the world, the greatest pound-for-pound boxer in the history of boxing, Roy Jones Jr. Roy, welcome to Israel Sports Radio.
Hey, thank you, brother. So nice to be on Israel Sports Radio. How y'all doing over there?
Oh, we're doing great.
Awesome stuff.
We're doing great. It's a big pleasure to have you on, and I apologize if I'm a little giddy, but I grew up watching you as a kid, and it's so great to interview you now, and I'm so happy that you're still fighting. And one of the things I want to talk about before we stroll on memory lane is you're fighting in your 40s. How do you maintain such peak physical condition to go into the ring in the age of, in your 40s?
Just like I'm doing right now. As you're talking to me, I'm just finishing up in the gym. I constantly stay in the gym and keep working. If you don't stop, then you don't have to worry about it. Like a lot of guys, like if you look at guys over here in the United States who play a lot of freelance basketball, and you have friends that are really good in high school, and they play as they're adults. But once they get a little older, some of them get like, sometimes they get married or something, they stop playing. But once they lay off for so long, they never get it back. So if you ever lay off like that, you're never going to get it back. So if you ever lay off too long in your older age, it ain't going to come back. So the key is you can't really lay off. You have to give your body a break, but you can't lay off that much. And that's what a lot of guys do. They lay off so long until when they try to come back, they've lost all the coordination and everything else. And it's a monster to ever try to get it back if you're lucky enough to ever get it back. So consistency is the key to hanging on.
So basically you kept doing your thing, you kept boxing, and that's why when other people have kind of fallen off the map, you're still here, you're still fighting, and you're going to be fighting for a title very shortly.
You better believe it. Well, not only be fighting for one, I'm going to win one very shortly.
All right, absolutely. We're looking forward to that. We'll try to give you our good luck and the karma, as they say. Like I mentioned, I followed you as a kid, and my first introduction to you was when you fought David Telesco, and you had we found out later you had a broken wrist. You dominated him. You toyed with
a broken left wrist. I jumped off a motorcycle and broke my wrist on December the 9th, and I fought on January the 15th.
How did you do that?
I just had a wheel that would not say no. You know, you couldn't tell me no because I just couldn't hear no. When I thought like if God didn't want me to do it, I would have broke my hand. But since I didn't break my hand, that means He must know that I was capable of doing it with a fractured wrist like that. He maybe break it completely, where it wouldn't have been able to be together. So because I fractured it really bad, I was like, you know what? Since it didn't break totally, that must mean that God said He want me to do something spectacular. Go out there and win it with your right hand, because I never had to fight with just my right hand. I fought with just my left several occasions, but never with just the right. So that was my first time ever having to perform with having just the right hand.
And won that very easily, unanimous decision there. Another favorite fight of mine was back in 2002. You fight Glenn Kelly, and before the 5th round, your corner says, hey, finish this fight, we got to go. You put your hands behind your back, dodged 2 punches, and knocked him out flush with 1 punch. And the story goes that you had to go somewhere because you guys were in Miami. And, you know, Miami's a fun place to go. And it's time to end work and go home. And
hey, we wanted to go out. They said it was tired of messing around. Let's go. I said, okay, y'all seen enough. Let's get it then.
That's it. That's all she wrote.
And, of course, also, speaking of beating someone with one hand, you beat, against David Telesco, is not the only time you fought with an injury. You beat Bernard Hopkins in '93 with a broken hand, correct? Tell us about that.
With a broken right hand.
Broken right hand that time.
First time I fought with a broke with only my right hand when I fought David Telesco. Usually my right hand is the one that's hurt. When I fought David Telesco for the first time in my career, my left was hurt. And I never hardly had to fight many fights without my left. I usually fight them without my right. So I beat a lot of people without my right. I even beat James Tony basically with about a 60% right hand.
Wow.
Wow, and with that Tony fight, also a great highlight is you did this, I don't know how you would describe the stance to the fans, so basically you put your left hand kind of higher than your head, your right hand lower. He tried to mock you, he tried to imitate you, and you knocked him down. Where does that stance come from where you left the left hand higher than your head?
Actually, that was my chicken stance. You know,
chicken stance, right.
Chicken, they faint down. I used to raise the game roosters, and back in the day, you know, they would faint down with their fellas at a rooster, and if he freed, they'd go get him. So when I fainted down at him, he did the same thing. I said, oh, my goodness, he copied that? Let me see if he copied it again. So I did it again, and he tried to copy it again, and wham, there he was.
He was watching chicken videos. He must have been, some rooster videos.
He didn't watch them. He should have watched them.
Should have watched them.
Wow. Yeah.
Hey, he didn't know the gun was loaded.
You don't mess with the master. You know what you were doing. He shouldn't have mocked you, and he paid for it.
Now, Roy, tell us, what's it like training to what you've done? You've increased your weight categories as you've gone along the years. You started off in one, you moved up all along until you reached the heavyweight division. What was it like training to increase your weight till you got to that peak top level?
It was very tough. I had to go on a high-protein diet and start lifting a little bit of weight, which I never did in my career. So that was something very different and new for me. But it was a wonderful experience, and it was something that I had to accomplish because I wanted to put on a little bit of weight in order to win the heavyweight championship of the world. So it was very different, but the high-protein diet was the biggest part of it, along with the working out.
Now, that fight against John Ruiz, you won very easily, at least 10 rounds, maybe 11, maybe 12. But one of the side stories to that fight was your corner knocked out John Ruiz's corner, Norman Stoney Stone. Is that correct?
Yeah, Alton Merckson knocked him cold.
Now, for those of you who don't follow boxing and are not a boxing aficionado like myself, Norman Stoney Stone is an annoying man. And, Roy, I got to ask you, when you were about to win the heavyweight title, did you want to lean over to Stoney and say, shh, I want to enjoy this moment, please be quiet?
No. I was so glad that Merck had knocked him out already, so I wasn't even worried about him no more. I just got exactly what he deserved. Now we can go and handle the rest of this.
Because even that fight, during that fight, the commentators were talking about how annoying Norman was, and they mentioned that your guy knocked him out, and they were pretty happy about that.
They were, and I was happy about it too.
So, of course,
for that fight for me.
Now, again, you've accomplished so much in your professional career. Was winning the heavyweight title the peak, the pinnacle of your career?
Yes, it was, without a doubt, because there's not another person alive that has accomplished that. Not that won the heavyweight title, then we went back and recaptured the light heavyweight title. See, a lot of people take that for granted. When I said Fitzsimmons did it back in 1896, Bob Fitzsimmons also recaptured the light heavyweight title after he done that. There's nobody that you know of again that can go win the heavyweight title, then go sweat back down to 175 and recapture the light heavyweight title. That's why it hadn't been done over 106 years then. So that has to be the peak of my career because I'm in the history books. I'm only the second human being to ever accomplish such a feat.
And that fight, when you went back down to win the light heavyweight title, I love that fight because you really had to dig, because you had to go down in weight. And by the end of the fight against Tarver, you seemed to be winded, but you really brought something out of you. You took it to another level. Talk about that 12th round against Tarver when you just summoned the will and won that fight.
I was dead tired. I basically was almost like a dead man there, but I had a heart and I had my faith. And it's like I wanted to kind of back off, but God was just like said, nope, you said you asked for this, you're going to go do it. Get up and get back out there and let's go and finish it. You said you're going to do it, let's go do it. So I got up, and it's like I got the word. When I got the word, I said, you know what, no matter what happens, I got to go. And I got up and I kept going, and that showed people a lot about me that they didn't know. And it's like the bad part about it is like I tell people I hate so much that I understand, the animal people and how they say about cruelty, but when you came up raising game chickens and stuff like that, you learn what game is meant. In that fight, I had to prove that I was game. That means that you will fight to the finish. And people don't understand that no more because they don't allow kids to know, they don't allow their type of activity to go on no more, so people can't relate to it. But that's what people want to be. You want to be game. In the end, I was game.
Now, you definitely were game in the 1988 Olympics in Seoul, Korea, and you made it all the way to the finals against Park Si-hun. That was a very, very controversial finish where you landed 86 to his 32 punches. You dominated all 3 rounds of that final, but yet Park Si-hun was given the very controversial win. After the event, all 3 judges of that match were suspended. Tell us your thoughts looking back at that decision. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, my thoughts are it was the biggest blessing that God could ever give me because, lo and behold, who would have ever known that people would remember me from that situation more so than they remember the guys that won gold medals at the Olympics.
Right.
So that was a really true blessing. That's how I tell people that if you don't have faith in God, you got to be crazy because who could turn a situation so bad into a situation so good? That was the worst thing that ever happened to me at the time, but it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me because even 20 years later, at the 2008 Olympics, they still want to call me and interview me about my decision. So that says a lot about that. And that made a lot of people in the whole world understand who I was and want to follow my career to figure out what did I end up doing. And it made me accomplish a lot, too. At the same time, it also shows you some of the problem with the world today. How can you catch a robbery on tape and you still can't go back and reverse it? You know what I'm saying? It's like you catch a guy killing somebody on tape and you can't prosecute him? How? If it's on tape and he did it, how can you not? You know they cheated or you want to ban the judges. So since you know they cheated, why don't you reverse the decision and get a kid the gold medal he deserves?
That's a great point.
If you know it's a problem, don't you just want to fix it?
Yeah, you would think.
I mean, what's the problem here?
I got to tell you, Roy, I followed all types of boxing for a long, long time, and I would tell you that by far is the worst decision in the amateur ranks and the Olympic ranks that we've ever seen, and you were named the outstanding boxer of that Olympics, of course, in 1988. But I love your faith, man. I love the fact that you took a negative situation and made it better. You made it to the point where you were happy that thing happened to you because it prospered you. Look how great you become and how successful you got in the game of boxing.
That's exactly right, and that's what God does for you if you just believe. You know, a lot of people would have gave up, but it's like he just knew how to put the right things in front of me to make me see that, no, he still had my back. He wanted to look like the whole world was against me, and that day still did me totally wrong. He said, no, I'm still going to turn this into a positive for you because watch what I do. And he did it. So, I mean, you know, what could I say? Thank God.
No, for sure. And, well, talking about some of the interesting things that you've done, some of the more up-to-date things that you've done since then, you got into music. You had a fairly successful music career. We were playing
20 million hits on YouTube,
yeah,
not bad, right?
That would be pretty successful. And we were playing some of your music before here for the fans. Tell us, how did you get into the whole music business? What caused you to go down that road?
Well, I had two guys back in 1990, I think back in 92 when I first started. It was like, hey, Roy, if you ever make it, man, you should start a record company. To help people not to skip that. Their name was Teddy Abrams and Dynamite D. I forget his real name. However, so I also used music to inspire myself before a lot of my fights. If you look at it, I used to make a lot of songs. I never would put them out, but I would just make songs to encourage me and pump myself up to come in the ring before I fight. Or I would listen to somebody who had a song that was very inspirational to me. So after doing that, I was like, you know what? And when I think about 96, 97, I said, you know, those guys, I told them I would try to start a record label so they would go on fulfill what I said I would do. And I started. Yep.
Now, that was quite impressive. Okay. Yes, we consider that was your kind of side profession, but still very successful. And you talk about some of the fights you go into. You would rap songs live of a song you wrote going in to the ring. In fact, when I recall against the David Telesco fight, they didn't have the correct music, and you said, oh, wait, I'm not going out till they had the correct music. You went out and rapped the song, and then went to the ring and annihilated David Telesco.
Well, actually, that was the best intro that I think I ever had. I think that was the best intro that anybody would have ever had. However, HBO didn't want to follow me on that, and they really kind of messed it up a little bit because they were so afraid of the content of the music. But at that time, it was actually a Method Man and Redman song. It's called Rottweiler. And it was one of the hottest songs out, and Method Man and Redman were the hottest at the time. And I asked them to play the music, but they tried to cover it up and like, nah, we ain't gonna play it because we're afraid. But they show all other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They show all kind of, on TV and all types of cussing and everything else, but you can't play some music that may have and the song actually didn't have much cursing in it, if any at all. But they were so afraid that they wouldn't play it, and they really ruined a great night for me.
See, it's funny because they might be kind of strict on music in a rap song, but then after your fight, they probably played an episode of The Sopranos where people are doing God knows what, people getting killed, they show violence.
You feel me?
Yeah.
You feel me, but you don't want to play a rap song. I mean, how do you explain it?
And I remember that very vividly because I was like, you seem very passionate. You wanted to rap this song, and you were upset. And I don't blame you. I mean, you're making a lot of money for HBO. The fans are coming to see you, not David Telesco. I got a funny feeling. Let you rap your song. That's what I got to say.
And not only that, I did even better than that. It wasn't just my song this time. I brought the hottest two artists in the game at the time out to this whole event. This makes this entire event. You got Roy Jones Jr., you got Whitney Houston singing the national anthem, then you got Method Man and Redman rapping their hot song, and now bringing Roy Jones to the ring. How much better could you ask for? And y'all want to turn that down? Oh, my goodness.
It's MTV Entertainment, VH1, E Entertainment, all wrapped into together with HBO.
And ESPN. Well,
exactly.
Yes, a sport event. So I don't know what they were thinking, but at least thank you for telling us the story because I always wondered why. I remember why you're so passionate, and now we know the reason because they were trying to cover up that song.
Now, also tell
Exactly, that's what it was.
tell us. We wanted to know what it's like to be paid to perform in two different sports on the same day. You played basketball the morning that you successfully defended your boxing title in the evening against Eric Lucas when you knocked him out in the 11th round. Talk to us about that.
Right.